The world is full of wonders in the faces that we pass, the stories of the spirit that are built to truly last. With the fire of inspire to lead us through the day, we're finding light in every soul we meet along the way.
Living inspired is living in alignment with the divine spirit within. Come to get refreshed and hear inspiring stories of real people living real lives inspired. May they serve as sparks to ignite inspiration within you and fan into flames the gifts of God in you. Like the phoenix transformed by flame, may the fire of divine inspiration give you power to take action to rise above your circumstances, bring beauty out of ashes, and be the light for others. Inspiration is right here, closer than you think. We only have one life to live. Let's live it inspired together.
Keeping hope alive and burning through the shadows of the light. Live inspired with the fire of inspire. Let your soul be fired.
Welcome to another episode of Live Inspired with Dr. Elona. Today we have an amazing guest, Hayden Reed. I'm super excited that you said yes. Thank you so much for being here. And Hayden is an amazing young man, and I love you, I care for you, and I'm very excited and inspired by your life. That's why you're here. So Hayden serves as the young adults and youth pastor at the Point Loma campus of Rock Church in San Diego. It's our home church, where he's passionate about helping people discover the love and hope of Jesus. He is married to his beautiful wife, Sarah. She's amazing. I love her as well. And together they both are set to make a lasting impact on the city of San Diego. So Hayden, thank you so much. This is definitely just a very short introduction to Hayden, who Hayden is. He's an inspiring young man. So I invited you because I've known you for a couple of years, and I have really seen you truly walk your talk, everything that you talk about at church and what you shared with me personally is really a reality of your life. And it's beautiful, and I love how you share that with other people. Very generous with sharing your story, the ups and downs, and I've also seen you really grow and progress in your walk, and that's why I invited you. So could you please share with us why you said yes to being a guest on Live Inspired on Inspiration podcast? You also mentioned that inspiration is one of your favorite topics. So why are you here?
Yeah, well, first off, I'm here because I'm going to say everything that you just said. My wife and I love you and Curtis so much. We love y'all. You guys are an inspiration to us just on what you both do in your own lanes of how you guys live your life. You both are very generous and you make a big impact on this city. So I was like, of course, I'm going to get on this podcast because I love everything that you represent and who you are. It's been a huge blessing for me to get to know both of y'all, and just to have you guys in my life has been amazing. And you guys have impacted me in a really big way. So when you asked me to do this, the answer was 100%, 110%, 150% yes. So I love what you're doing, and I love the topic of inspiration, because I think if more people were more inspired, this world would look differently. So
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So while I introduced you with what you do, right, and what you're passionate about, but there's so much more to your story. And this podcast is to highlight real stories of real people that we meet or whom we meet in day-to-day life, and really bring it to life and allow other people to be inspired by real life stories. So could you please tell us just a little bit more about that story, kind of your walk and the ups and downs, and share more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in North Carolina, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. For anyone who's watching, go Tar Heels. And I growing up, and my home life was it was chaotic at times between my mom and my dad. There were a total of 9 marriages, 9 divorces, and I love them both so much. My mom passed away in the last 2 years, but I love my parents. They're amazing parents. I think they were doing their best. And but with that brought a lot of anxiety as a kid. And at the age of 11, my dad married a woman named Michelle, who is probably one of the sole reasons that I'm following the Lord right now. When I was 11, I was struggling a lot with anxiety, and I remember laying in bed with her, and she prayed for me and told me about Jesus. And that was the moment that I would say was the beginning of God kind of having His hand on my life. I turned away from the Lord for a couple of years as I was, in high school, and kind of fell into some things that accidentally that I don't think the Lord ever intended for me to, but I did it in my own will. And through that, the Lord has just kind of brought me on this journey where, I found myself at the age of 21, fully addicted to drugs, prescription pills, and different substances. And I had flunked out of college. I had broken a lot of relationships that meant a lot to me. And I remember being, it was this day I'll never forget. It was pouring down rain, and I was driving back to community college. I was trying to like re-enroll and kind of get something going with my life. And it was pouring down rain. And I remember thinking, I think I'm going to take my life. Life has just gotten too hard. I feel like I've hurt too many people. I don't feel like I'm adding any value to this world. And that was a moment that I had this radical encounter with the Lord. I can't describe it any other way other than that, radical. The Lord just met me in my car, and I felt God's love, and I felt God's peace, and I felt like I heard the voice of God truly tell me to just hold on a little bit longer because He had a plan and purpose for my life. And then since then, I have just been following the Lord ever since, and God's done some really cool things. And so I'm really passionate about this topic of inspiration and purpose because the Lord gave that to me, and I think a lot of people are missing that. And I think when people really find what they're made to do, that that the sky's the limit, and the world could look a lot different. So,
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you for sharing. And yes, not to minimize your pain. You've gone through a lot, and you've healed through a lot.
yeah,
And that's why I also just see you really growing and that
yeah,
healing. It's a beautiful thing to witness. I know Hayden really well. So
we're besties. We're
yeah,
besties.
of course. So with that, also, well, you mentioned, 9 broken relationships, right, in your family life. And so how has that impacted you? Well, and now you're married to a beautiful wife, Sarah. You recently married. So how, I know people are not perfect, right? We're not perfect. And that's why we need God to show us what perfection looks like, and to also give us an example of what it is, and also to have something that we can model our lives in, because people mean well, right? I'm sure that all those people got together because they loved each other, but then, things don't always work out, and it has an impact on the future and the next generation. So how the brokenness, I guess, of those relationships of people who really mattered to you impacted you personally, because you mentioned a lot of anxiety and fear, which is something that so many young people experience now, right? Anxiety is like number one, of course, for young people, and you deal with young people all the time. Like that's yeah.
I think for me, growing up in that, my wife and I have been very blessed by having a lot of mentors around us, a lot of people around us who, even like you guys having this conversation before we even started about you guys telling me about your date hikes on Saturday mornings and stuff like that. I think when you're blessed to be, and this is why the church is so important, because when you're blessed to be in a community with so many people around you who can say, hey, we've done this. We've been married for 40 years. This works well. This is something you guys should consider doing. It really is a blessing, because the Lord has intentionally, I think, put certain people in our life for a reason. And we've been able to learn and glean from those people, including both of you. And so we've been blessed by that. I think, it doesn't mean it's not hard. Like, we both come from families that have broken marriages, and we both are still trying to unlearn certain habits and certain things that maybe we brought into the marriage not realizing that we were bringing in. So it's definitely not easy, but I think marriage is just a commitment, and it's meant to make us more like Christ. It's meant to make us more self-sacrificial, how we love the other person. And I think as long as her and I are doing that and we have the right people around us, I think we're going to be okay. But it's definitely, it's a commitment. You are choosing this person. And I think when you grow up and, you see that kind of fall apart multiple different times, it makes you kind of, I've had to, rebuke the lie that, this person who I'm married to isn't going to be here forever. And that's a lie that I've had to really work on and rebuke and give that to the Lord, because the reality is we've both chosen each other. We both love each other. We're in covenant with each other, and we're committed to one another. And I think having people like you two and having people in our community has really been a blessing for us. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. So God can redeem all things. So there's always beauty from
100%.
ashes. That's one of my favorite verses. And whatever brokenness we bring to God, He is faithful to restore us. And that's also why I invited you, because you're such a beautiful example of that healing, but also taking personal responsibility, right? At some point, you have to say yes to God. Yes, we have all these amazing, beautiful blessings that God has for us. But as long as we're making the decisions within the brokenness of whatever impact of the lives of other people even who loved and cared for us, or to the best of our ability, right, brought into us, and how that colored our perception, experience of life, right? At some point, we have to say, no, this is not working, right? Like I have to make different choices. And sometimes it takes hitting that rock bottom in order to do that, right?
Yeah. And can I add one thing
Yeah,
on that?
of course.
I think when you said the Lord redeems, I think what's cool is my dad has been a huge voice in my marriage on, I think he's able to speak from, he loves the Lord and has a relationship with God. And he's able to speak from a place of wisdom. So some of the best advice I've gotten in my relationship with my wife has been from my dad. So it's like the Lord really does redeem, broken, lost, hurt things or situations. And He does work all things together for good for those who are called according to His purpose. And so I've seen that with my dad. So when you said that, I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So there's always someone there. So don't feel like you're alone, right? There's always someone there. God has a special person you can reach out to. And for you, thankfully, it was your dad, which was amazing, right?
Many people, yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
there are always people, and that's why we also have church community, right? If we don't have, let's say, our relatives to be there for us, there is that family of God that serves that purpose. So, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So also then with inspiration itself, since again, you love the topic. So where do you get the inspiration? What inspires you? And what is the source of all of that inspiration for you personally?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, God is 100% the source. I think when I had, when you've been somewhere where you're so broken, you're so hurt, you have no purpose, you're so insecure, you're so anxious, you're so depressed, and God pulls you out of that and then gives you an opportunity to tell other people your story so that it can help them get out of the same situation that they're in. I think that's what inspires me. What inspires me is it's the gospel. It's the good news that, God loves us so much that we can have a relationship with Him, and we don't have to carry our shame. We don't have to carry our brokenness. We don't have to carry our pain, because God takes it. And that is the best news on the entire planet, that we have a God who loves us exactly for who we are, and He's reaching out to us. So I think for me, that's what really inspires me. I think more and more, I've had different seasons and phases since I've been walking with the Lord and serving Him. But I think right now, what it is for me is that I just want to be able to give this simple gospel to people who are hurting and broken, because the gospel is simple. It's a message of love to humanity. And I think so many people right now have their preconceived notions of what church is or what community is in church world life, Christian world. And there's so many preconceived notions. And I think what I really feel called to do is to just share this simple gospel with people who have these preconceived notions, and really hopefully break the walls down of just letting them know that, no, God's not mad at you. He loves you. You've been hurt maybe by somebody in the past who called themselves a Christian or called themselves somebody who goes to church, but that doesn't mean that they represented God well. And so that's really, I think, what inspires me the most and makes me so passionate. I think over the years, I've had different things that I'm inspired by. I think that has grown and matured into what I just said, is that I want to just be somebody who shares the simple gospel with people who are hurting, broken, and lost. And I think if I'm doing that, I feel like I'm living out what God's called me to do.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. Yes, so we can bring all the burdens, all of our shame. It's actually one of the songs I love, to the foot of the cross, and God is
Amen.
faithful to meet us right there. So whatever brokenness we have, essentially that kind of also allows us to really experience God for who he truly is, right?
Yeah.
Because he's God who is way outside of our circumstances, way outside of our brokenness, and he can bring healing of heaven on earth, and for us here on earth to experience that healing.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as we don't want people to go through challenging times and be hurt and go through trauma and all these things, addiction and like all these things, then, or even facing, potentially taking our lives, like that's one of the scariest places we could be,
Mm-hmm.
right? But to some degree, that is also an opportunity for a miracle, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we've come to the end of ourselves and we know there's nothing in this world that can solve what we seek most in our hearts and what we really truly need, that's where God shows up.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we have the miracle actually occurring, and God meets us exactly where we are. There's no shame, there's no guilt, and he redeems all of that. And that's really the good news. That's the good news. That's the gospel ultimately at the core, right? Come as you are, and I'm here to meet you with perfect love, heal and restore you for great things that God has already prepared for us. And he has that plan for us. It's already prepared. He was just waiting, right, for Hayden sort of to come to the end of himself, say yes, and be completely open, right? And make yourself available to God to use you now for the purpose that he has for you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think too, to add on to that, I think life is really hard. You go through a lot of hard times. It's just the way it goes. Like you're going to have seasons where everything is amazing and seasons where everything is hard. I think for a lot of people now more than ever, you said anxiety is one of the top statistics for mental health.
Yeah.
And I also think loneliness is up there as well. And I think so many people are going through life, good seasons, hard seasons, all of these things, but they're feeling so lonely.
Yeah.
And I think the Bible tells us that, David writes, I can come to God because he is my strong tower. He will protect me. And I think just because you accept Jesus doesn't mean your life is going to be, easy the rest of your life. Life is hard, but it does mean that you'll have somebody, the God of the universe, walking through life with you and comforting you in your hardest seasons. And I think so many people are so lonely and they feel so alone when God is reaching out to them with both arms saying, I want to be with you in this. I want to comfort you in this. I want to give you joy, even though the situation that you're going through is hard. So I'm really passionate about that. And that's why when you asked me to do this, like I love talking about it because, that inspires me every day. God had pulled me out of a living hell. And because of that, I'm able to do these things and share this message. So, but yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yes, absolutely. So, day to day, of course, as you mentioned, there are ups and downs of life. And once we get saved, our life is not perfect, right? We still have to face life. We still have to deal with a lot of things. And as you mentioned, we bring a lot of our brokenness into our relationships and business deals and partnerships and with other people.
Yeah.
So and also, we may not necessarily always feel inspired. So how do you personally maintain that inspiration and get yourself, attuned to God's calling, his wisdom, his power, his perfect love day to day? Like what can all of us and, people who are looking for inspiration, right? And looking for ways of how they could practically implement that. How do you maintain it for yourself and practically speaking?
Yeah. So for me personally, I have a couple of thoughts on this. For me personally, I have to maintain it because I have to keep dreaming. I think the Lord I think too many people, and I said it earlier, limit themselves for what God wants to do in their life. And I think the world would look a lot different if we had more people who dreamed that they could do things that could change the world. I think there's so many people who are so gifted and so talented and made in the image of God, and they don't dream. And it just kind of it baffles me, because I'm like, if the Bible tells us the Lord created the heavens and the earth, our God is a creator. The Bible tells us that we were created in the image of God. So we're created by this being who we are made in the image of, who is not limited to a box. God has made us in his image to do big things. And the Bible tells us that God has a plan and a purpose for our lives. So I think going back, I think if I'm not dreaming, I have to kind of like assess where I'm at. All right, where am I at spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, because I know that God has made me to do things that he's put in my heart. And if I'm not dreaming, if I feel like I'm pulling back on that, I have to kind of like assess myself and figure out, okay, what do I need to do to get back to that place? Sometimes it's like taking time with God, taking some time off of work, being alone with the Lord. Sometimes it's going on a walk with Sarah and figuring out, us having some conversations about our future and getting back to that place of, I want to dream. I want to be inspired to do big things on this planet for the Lord. And then secondly, is you also have to realize that inspiration is a feeling. Inspiration comes and goes. Feelings are highs and lows. You have both. And so I think the more you realize that inspiration is something that you have to manage, you have to steward, you have to continue to, stoke the flame. And because your feelings are going to change, like we said before, life is hard. You go through hard seasons, you go through great seasons. You'll be more inspired in the great seasons, most likely, than you will in the hard ones. So you got to figure out, okay, where am I at, and how can I have the discipline to maintain this inspiration even though life is hard? So for me, a discipline that I use and I've started doing this in the last couple months, of how do I maintain inspiration even though I'm not feeling it? And one of the things that helps me the most is looking back on what God's done in my life and looking back on what he's brought me out of. I think the biggest thing that so many people, if you're not feeling inspired, I would encourage you to go and to look at the resume of what God has done in your life. Look and see, where has God been faithful? Where has God shown up? Where has God brought you out of? What has God called you to do that you knew when you were 18 years old, and now that you're 32, you're forgetting this calling? I think that when we look at the resume of what God has done in our life, it increases our faith, and the byproduct of that is that we live an inspired life.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Yeah, amen to that. Yeah. Remember, right?
that was a lot. That was a lot. I said a lot.
Perfect. Yeah. Like first, just inventory, your life, and just know it's ups and downs, and also just look back and remember all those great things. There's like this faith journey that you've been on, and this journey, it's kind of like a continual mountain with no top. There's no end to being like, oh, well, now I'm good with God. I've gotten as inspired as possible, has achieved everything that he has for me. There's no end. So, and then it's our personal responsibility to keep that flame going so it doesn't completely go out, right? And so, which is why we're here, sharing these stories. So that's one of the sparks to continue fanning into flames the gifts of God there within you. And that's why we're here today. So it has been a beautiful testament to God's goodness, faithfulness, and grace for young people, especially people struggling with mental health, emotional issues, brokenness in families. That is so, so common. Again, we don't want it to be common, but it is common. It is a real struggle. And also people losing faith, and people just really questioning God and questioning church and all these things. They're real things that real people deal with, especially the young people of today, and addiction, all of those things too. So with that, what could you share with people who are listening, with all the people who are here today, on what would be the insight that you could share with people, leave everyone with, that would continue helping them to fan into flames, all those things? And if you've never been touched by the love of God, to at least get that and get that fire started so you could live an inspired life and really feel on fire about the life that you have. We only have one life to live,
Yeah.
and living it inspired, filled by something way outside of our own source, right? Like we can't be the source of everything for ourselves. Like we have responsibility for it, but the source is above and beyond us, which is amazing because we never run out of that. So what would you share with all of our listeners on continuing, that inspiration journey, on inspiration itself or insight that you have gained?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I don't know why I keep saying stuff in twos, but first off, I would like to say to anybody who's watching and they don't know the Lord, and maybe you feel like you are in a really hard time in your life. I just want to encourage you that God does have a plan. He does have a purpose for your life, and He wants to have a relationship with you. So my encouragement to you would be, if you are feeling like you have no purpose and you feel broken and like you can't, talking about inspiration, I can't even make my bed today. If that's you, I just want to tell you that God does love you. And the Bible tells us in John 3:16, for God so loved the world. It's the most popular verse. You've probably seen it, that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him will not perish, but will have eternal life. And I would just encourage you, if you're watching, just ask the Lord to meet you where you're at. And I promise you He will. He is faithful to do it. Just cry out, say, Jesus, I'm struggling and I'm barely holding on. If you're real, show up in my life. And I can promise you, Jesus will meet you exactly where you're at. And your life will, if you let Him, will look completely different in 10 years from now than it does today. And then secondly, to the people who love the Lord, you feel like you have been saved, you feel the love of God, you feel the peace of God. For anyone who's watching who's in that camp, I would say, but maybe you're feeling like you don't have purpose or you don't feel inspired, I would encourage you to ask yourself, what is the thing that burdens you? What is the thing that makes you feel like is missing? What is the thing that you see that you feel like every time you see it, it irks you or it hurts you? And then I would say that's probably what God has called you to make a change to. And that's probably what God has put you on this earth to have a purpose for. So if that's you, I would just say continue to ask God to show you and reveal to you what He's called you to do. And to have the courage to go and do it. Don't limit yourself. You are made in the image of God. You have a mighty calling on your life, and God has made you uniquely with certain gifts and abilities. And don't limit yourself because culture and the world tells you that you need to be put in a box. And I think one of the reasons I love both of y'all so much, and I said this, is that you guys, the world is your oyster. You both are just like, even, these Fire of Inspire shots.
That's next.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait for you to talk about it because it's awesome. And then like the details in the office. And I just love how big you dream and how inspired you are to change the world. So I hope anybody who's watching, as you continue to watch these episodes, that you just see Dr. Elona and you see her passion. And I hope it, my prayer is that it gets on you, because she is somebody who believes that God has put her on this planet for a reason, and she's not going to stop. She's not going to stop working to get to what God has called and put in her heart and her mind. So, hopefully that answers your question. I'm scared to take this. Let's do it.
That's good. Sometimes a little fear is good.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid. These are wellness shots. They're juice shots, so not shot that you take with a syringe. So, and they are all sustainably grown at a local farm, made by hand, by a survivor-led and founded business, also made by survivors of human trafficking. I put the recipe together. It's called the Fire of Inspire. So it's meant to heal our bodies, also give us just the bolt of inspiration on the inside. And it helps, of course, ladies who've been through that. It's fun to drink. So it's really good. And we'll take that shot.
Let's do it.
Yes, so it's our also commitment
Cheers.
to sobriety and good things and wellness. Cheers. Did you do all of it?
That's a big shot.
To the bottom. Okay.
Woo!
It's very spicy and hot because it has turmeric, ginger, and cayenne pepper, which is really good for you. But it's fun to drink as well, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
My gut health is phenomenal.
Yes,
now.
good for gut health. Thank you. So we have them at our practice, and they're fun to drink. So thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate you. We love you. We are inspired by you. We're inspired to be an inspiration. Well, as Hayden said, I'm not stopping. I'll be here. We have an amazing dental practice, but it's a lot more than just doing dental procedures. We're here to serve God, to make Him known. He is first and foremost our guide, our source, and our inspiration as my own, for sure. And, I seek for it to be something that is beyond myself, of course. So thank you again. Tune in next month for another Spark of Inspiration with Live Inspired with Dr. Elona.
Let your soul be fire.